Now we can begin. All right, there's a sign-in sheet. Pass it around. Make sure you sign up if you're in group number 1. If you have not, please, thank you. There you go, Esra. And you'll see these cards on your table, okay? This is something I do sometimes in my classroom. It's just confirmation checks. If you guys understand, you can hold up the green card. If you don't understand, you can hold up the red card. And if you're like, yeah, which most of you will probably be, you can hold up the yellow one. This is just a quick way for me as a teacher to kind of gauge what's going on in the classroom. It's something you can do if you just kind of need to, you're the only one that maybe doesn't understand and you want me to slow down. So use those. You also notice that there's some letters on them. I sometimes use that to pair up groups. So I just kind of use it as a quick little, you can do whatever system that works for you. For me, it's just a way to do confirmation check with non-verbally, and it doesn't make students feel out of place or awkward. Delta class, I think it would suit really well to just have an ability for students to be able to say, Mr. Bob, slow down. We're talking about autonomous learning strategies using online tools. There's a lot of information. I'm going to try to go through it quickly. If you don't understand everything, it's fine. At the end, I'm going to give you a kind of a big old note, a big online note that you can look at everything in more detail. There's videos about how to sign up for things. And what I want you to think about today is just maybe out of all these tools, just maybe one thing that you'd like to try to do next semester. Something new, something interesting, something that you think students might need or you might need, okay? So these autonomous learning strategies are for your students mainly, but also for you as teachers, okay? So, and I'll be recording this on my computer. I put it on the website for my program through the United States Department, so legal stuff. We'll be talking about autonomous learning, setting goals, self-assessment, and then note-taking. And hopefully we'll have time for note-taking today. Participate, okay? And that means you're going to be using your phones. If you need to charge, I can give you a charger. Everybody, hi, welcome. No problem. I don't close the doors on students. Take notes, allow others to share their ideas, and the most important thing, have fun and learn, because we are Ega University. Let's go. Okay, autonomous learning. What are these strategies? I always like to kind of have some kind of idea, some kind of historical backdrop, okay? There's more distractions than ever, right? There's sound bites, video clips, messages, don't use your phones, notifications. This is called the attention economy, right? It's also like the data economy. And companies are fighting for your attention, okay? And when you feel like you're losing, you're being distracted, it's normal because they're paying money to do this, okay? And companies are fighting for your attention. Okay? Whenever you hear that sound, you all must be like checking your phone or thinking somebody's rude and didn't turn off their phone. But yeah, it's a lot more distractions than there's ever been. So we're facing an attention scarcity, right? And our students are as well. And this is why we talk about autonomous learning. This is some information about cell phone usage in America, 144 times. That's the average time that U.S. citizens look at their phones on a daily basis, right? So there's probably somebody who's like 1,000 times, This is just an average. There's some more information on there, but 144 times a day. I think I check mine more than that, right? Probably. So yeah, why? Okay, or anxiety and stress related, right? So a lot of these distractions are caused by our own anxiety, stress, sleep-related issues. This can also lead to sleep-related issues, right? Being distracted. Mental health issues are on the rise. 57% of high school girls reported feelings of sadness or hopelessness. Okay, this is like a whole Facebook thing. Huh? Why girls? They say because of social media, like beauty standards. A lot of how young girls perceive themselves are based on images that they see, these unrealistic images. Men are 3 times more likely to die by suicide than women. And, a lot of guys would be like, because I work harder than women. It's not the case. The case is actually men don't make friendships in older age. Okay, so women usually have more social bonds as they get older. You could just make friends like, oh, I like your dress. And you become friends and you have coffee the next day. Men are just like, how was the game? Yeah, Fenerbahce. I don't know. More women are being diagnosed with ADHD. This has been happening since the pandemic. Okay, and one of the things is that it presents differently in women than men. It's more of the attention deficit rather than the hyperactivity part, right? So ADHD, attention deficit, hyperactive disorder. Okay, and anxiety and stress are normal, right? It's only when it becomes a disorder. It's when anxiety is a normal part of life. It's when a disorder is when something happens that you can't actually deal with your normal, regular life, right? So anxiety is normal. Anxiety disorders are not normal. Just like a fear is normal, a phobia is something where we actually are debilitated. We can't do stuff because of whatever the condition is. And procrastination. I love procrastinating. Okay? I think it's a creative process. But we can also think about kind of our students procrastinating. A lot of times these are related to all of these things. Okay? So that's like the background for what I'm talking about with autonomous learning strategies. And yeah, distractions can be symptoms or a cause, right? Sometimes we want to be distracted. Sometimes, that's our way of coping with things, to be distracted. And what can we do to regain our attention? How do we reduce distractions? And how do we improve learning and growth, okay? And I think this is, the most important thing is that our students, a lot of them don't know how to learn on their own, right? They're coming from a high school setting. They're coming from very structured backgrounds. And I also think, I'm not making judgments on people, but, modern parenting also doesn't give a lot of free grounds to roam, right? So yeah, we have autonomous learning strategies, or you can also look it up as self-regulating strategies. I like the first one just because it focuses more on learning. But if you look on Google, you can look up either of those terms. They'll be the same. Tips for teachers. Okay, so if you're going to be starting any of these things, think about a tool you want to focus on this semester. Okay? From what we're talking about, learn the tool enough that you can teach it. You don't have to master it. Okay? You can learn it as you go. Scaffold it for yourself. Start off simple with your students. A lot of times my students help me with learning, and we were talking about online teaching. I didn't know what I was doing. We just kind of all learned together, And part of it is what I'm going to talk about. Model the tool and skills to your students, right? And then give them control, right? So instead of you making the vocabulary list, let them make their own, okay? Instead of you setting up all of the Google Docs or something like that, let them create their own documents and things like that. And then, check for understanding throughout with formative assessments. So just think about that as we go through some of these things. Last one, trust the process, okay? And I know a lot of us, we have these ideas, we start them in the beginning and then we get frustrated. Our students look like they don't understand, and then we just stop. What I've learned is the things that I thought were really hard are really hard, But if it's interesting to you and it's interesting to your students, you're gonna go through it together. You're gonna have 15 or now 14 weeks to learn something together. Hi, welcome. So I think before we can do anything about autonomous learning, we have to kind of set goals. We have to teach our students how to set goals. We need to be able to set goals ourselves and model these goals that if you can sit anywhere with these red and yellow cards. Yeah, you can take one over. Yeah. And those cards are, if you have any questions or if you understand, you can raise them up. If you have something you don't understand, you can use the red card, show not understanding. The yellow one's like a kinda, maybe. So goals. Let's do a Padlet, because I love Padlet. And what I think tell me about your goal, your personal goal for this year. We talked about it last week. We talked about it this morning. Write it on this Padlet for me. Go ahead, everybody. take out your phones, participate, be active, and you'll see other people's goals from the first group. Yeah. And how can we make sure our goals can be achieved, right? SMART goals, whoops. And what I like about Padlet, if you're doing a writing class, is that you can keep the Padlet going, right? So your students can see, they can see other students model writing before, they can find mistakes in student writing, which I think is really cool for students to see. I use, and you can come up if your QR code. This is like the future, QR codes everywhere. I'm going to open up this Padlet. Does it work? Yeah, it works. Okay. So these are some. I always love seeing all the little ants working. I used this a lot last semester. Basically every week I had like a question I asked my students. We can't give assignment scores, but we can use these like throughout the class. And I found that students actually did them after class still, right? So a lot of students, they're not ready to write in the classroom yet. There is no pressure. There's no like, hey, there's only 5 submissions. Don't get angry with the process. It'll happen, and just, tell your students that this is something they can look back upon. And this is what I really like about Padlet. If you have the free account, there's only 3 Padlets, but you can make 1 million email accounts. So just figure out which ones. So you can have 3 Padlets, or you can have unlimited if you pay for it. What I really like about it, you can always come back to the Padlets throughout the year, right? And students can look at their writing from week to week, and we want to show students their improvements. And we also want to show other students their works as well. Feel fully content and also proud of my students and myself at the end of the semester. How would you be able to do that? How would you make that a achievable goal? I know, but how would you measure it then? What would it mean that you were content? Okay.
If I feel something good, I can understand myself.
Okay.
When I look at my students' faces and eyes, and I can really understand it.
Okay.
Because I'm not new here, and I have had 25 years only in the school.
Yeah.
And I have got many students. And now I've got the ability to understand how they feel.
Yeah.
If they like the procedure and if they are happy with
Okay.
their learning period and then me and then life.
Nice. I would really encourage you to use Google Forms or something as well, like as an actual way to get feedback. Just because sometimes the eyes lie. No, just kidding. But also, there's things that students don't want to say that are really positive about your class, right? So I think a better way to measure that contentment with your students and your class, and it's something I used last semester. I think it was like 6 weeks. I did a Google Forms because I wanted to see what the heck was going out there. There was only 4 students in my class, but apparently 22 of them were really into the class. Online is different, right? But I think also, having an anonymous thing where we can get feedback allows us to see kind of our blind spots and things like that, right? So yeah, look at these, look at all your friends' things. Focus on those goals this year. I think they're important. So yeah, how do we make our goals achievable, or achieve our goals, or finish our goals? Somebody corrected my English last week at a presentation. They said, the collocation for goals should be achieved. And I wrote finish, and I was like, okay. And I changed it. But I looked it up, and American English, we use finish goals all the time. I think achieve is more correct to British people. Maybe, I don't know. I use finish a goal. Yeah, and if you look it up, it's all over the internet. Finish the goal, blah, 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 help you finish a goal. The man he was a British man, he said, the proper collocation is achieve for goals? And I said, okay, I'm not going to argue with you, you know. I thought it was really funny. SMART. So S stands for what? Specific. Okay. What is the M? Measurable. What's A? Achievable, I heard. What's R? Reachable, real, realistic, or relevant, okay? Either one's. Reachable is like achievable. Timely, sorry, I gave you that one. SMART goals, right? When we make our classroom objectives, this is what we're using. That whole, by the end of the class, 20 students will be, 80% of my students will be able to write 5 adjectives using blah, 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 right? That's a SMART goal. This is what we've all learned in your pedagogy classes. But can you apply that to real life? I don't know. Can you apply it to the classroom? I'm going to give this to you later. There's like a Google Slides that you can, not slides, a Google Sheets that you can use to do this in the classroom with your students. I think it's really important to teach students how to set goals, right? And like I said previously, I don't think our young people, Gen Z, I don't think they can do this at the moment, right? And it's not because they're like this, it's just that they're young, you know? Young people don't know how to set goals. So help them. We can define your goals, make a SMART goal, you can break it down, okay? And that's the most important part, is like making it achievable, okay? So some people might say, I want to lose 10 kilos by the end of blah, 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 right? Start small, right? I'm just going to stop drinking cola at dinner. That's it, you know? Start with something that's achievable. And it also makes it feel like you're doing something, right? You're moving down the line. Estimate the time that's needed, create a timeline. I love timelines. Update and seek support. And this is what we call backwards planning. Has anybody used this backwards design? Have you ever made an assessment using backwards design principles? So you always start with the assessment, right? The results at the end. So my sister helped me with this. When I had to move to Ethiopia, she said, okay, let's work backwards. You landed in Ethiopia at the airport, okay? That's the first one. And then I go backwards, okay? I had to get to the airport. I need my plane ticket. I need this, I need my vaccines. I have to pack, I have to have a party to say goodbye to people. And so we work backwards. And I think the cool thing about doing that is that you see the results the whole way, right? You're looking at the goalpost and you're figuring out what you need. When you're making an assessment, if you ever had to design an assessment, it's the same thing. What is the outcome you want from your students, right? My students will be able to write a 5-paragraph essay using quotations in their essays, right? So how do I do that? And how do I work backwards throughout the semester? So I'm teaching them about citations, that we're teaching them about using topic sentences and concluding sentences and blah, 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 right? So we have to work backwards. I find that this is probably the easiest way. It's goal-orientated. It's like focus on results. Boom. Backwards planning. No, that's not the word. You guys, I don't want to, we are, that's the code. Focus timers. Anybody use a focus timer before? Has anybody know what a focus timer is? No, okay, so let's start. It takes 10,000 hours to master a skill, right? Oh, Malcolm Gladwell. But note the word master, right? We're not gonna all be master chefs. We're not gonna all be master musicians. But we still want to cook and make music, right? What if I told you it only takes 20 hours to learn a skill? That's what Forbes says. To learn a skill, right? So that means that you learn the guitar so you can play one song. Are you a master? No. You might be able to play another song out of that song, right? But you're building the skills and you can have fun doing it, okay? And it says it takes 59 days on average to form a new habit, okay? So that whole thing about, keeping something, you have to do it for 59 days. And if you do it, it'll be a habit for life.
I thought that was 21 days.
21?
Yes, they say so.
Okay.
This is the first time I saw.
59, just remember 59. 21, 59.
21 is better.
21 is better. 20 hours to learn something, 59 hours on average to form a habit, okay? Anybody know the 80-20 rule? Yes, what is it?
I think actually that's about advertising or in the shops they use. 80% of the whole customers, what was it? I can't remember right now.
It's about productivity though. Yeah. Okay. So it takes 20% of time to learn 80% of most of the content and skill, right? So if you think about learning a sport, you learn all of the kind of basic stuff in the beginning, right? Let's make a graph, because I love graphs. 20%. This will be 100%. This is 80. So like in that first, when you start learning something, that 20% of the time that you learn something, right? This is the time that it takes to master, to get to 100%, right? And imagine when you wrote like that essay for class and you did 4 hours on it and you're like, okay, this is a B, you know? And you put another 4 hours and now it's like 85%, you know? And you put another 8 hours, it becomes 90%. And you can stop there, or you can try to get the 100 and it'll take you like 30 something hours in your graduate, I don't know. I used to just waste my time because I thought, I need that 99%, you know? But to get that requires kind of this more exponential growth in time, right? So to learn something, it only takes that like 20%, you know, the 20% of the things that you need to learn, the 80%, it will take 20% of that time. We don't need to master everything. This whole 10,000 hours thing, it's wonderful, but nobody has time. Not everybody. One more rule, sorry. Parkinson's law. Anybody know this one? Dang. You guys aren't on Instagram? No, just kidding. Okay, so work expands to fill the time given to it. Work expands. Okay, so if you give something 1 week, you'll finish it in 1 week. Okay, I'm gonna write this letter of recommendation next week. And I say, okay. It never gets done, right? If you change it to a day, you'll finish it in a day, right? If you change it to 6 hours, you'll finish it in 6 hours. That's how our brain works, right? So Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the time given to it. Okay, so how can we stay focused? How do we, like, you know, if students have to write an essay and it's due tomorrow, well, they're way too late already. But, you know, if an essay takes them, let's say, 8 hours to do, but they just say, I'm going to spend this whole week doing it. You know, this is why we have to make ourselves deadlines sometimes, right? One of the techniques is this Pomodoro technique. Have you ever heard of it? You have? I see a head over there. 20?
Study for 25 minutes?
25.
25 minutes and then give a break for 5 minutes?
5 minutes, yeah. So then you have 30-minute chunks. You can do 2 Pomodoros in an hour. In that 5 minutes, that's when you can get your phone out. That's when you can have your chocolate, your coffee, use the restroom, smoke your cigarette, whatever it is that you do. Reward yourself in that 5 minutes, you know. And I've been using this since the pandemic. It was like, you know, when we were stuck in our homes, in our offices alone for so long, you could sit for hours and get nothing done, you know. And so I was kind of pushing myself using some kind of techniques like this. Now the world's better. Some people do like 60 minutes, 10, you know, it depends on the task, if you're reading. Yeah, I'm not gonna look at my phone. There's this app called Forest and Flora. I don't know if you've heard of these. This is kind of gamification of this. So it allows you to like grow a tree every time you get a Pomodoro, right? So it uses the Pomodoro technique. And what it does is it also locks your phone, so you can't actually get messages. So your phone's like, doesn't get any just like messages, only this app is on, and you're like distraction free, right? And if you pay for the app, they'll plant trees for you. So you can kind of choose which kind of plants you want. You know, if you're into those things, gamification I think is a great way. And another cool thing with some of these apps is you can like invite friends to like compete with you for, oh, if one of them breaks the thing, then they break the Pomodoro. That's what happens. So you're kind of getting this accountability thing. Anybody else have any other recommendations? I mean, you could just use the basic timer. I mean, I have my timer. This is my timer I use in my class. It'll go off. All right. Self-assessment tools. Okay? There's a lot of them. I'm going to try to go through it quickly. You don't have to memorize it all. You'll get like a Miro board at the end that'll give you an overview, more details. So I always say don't wait till the midterm to measure student understanding. Okay? I feel like in a integrated skills class you should be doing it weekly. I use quizzes. Has anybody uses quizzes? Much better than Kahoots, because now Kahoots has only 10 students. Quizzes lets them take the quiz at their own pace. Yeah, and then what's cool about it is you can assign it as an assignment. So, after the whatever, I actually just take the questions from the books to make my life easier. I just put 10 questions and they do a quizzes. They get all excited. It's gamification. And then you can send it again as an assignment. Okay, so you allow students to self-assess themselves. And what I like about quizzes is the statistics. So it tells me 60% of the students, or the students got 60% of the questions right. And then I say, is that enough? Do I need to go back? And I can actually look at the questions and how many students made the wrong choice. Okay, so maybe there's one question all the students missed and you say, hey, that's great for me as a teacher. I can assess my own teaching at the same time. I like quizzes with this double Z. I don't know why I didn't include it in this. This is a better tool than Kahoots in my opinion. So check that out. Check areas they need for improvement, right? So this allows you to do that. Teach students apps to test and learn. We're going to do that. More terms. What's spaced repetition? Has anybody heard of this term? It's kind of old school. Remember those flashcards? Yeah. Okay. This is still like the best way to learn. Nothing has changed in 60, 70 years. So spaced repetition is a method of reviewing materials as a systematic interval. So basically, you learn something, you review it immediately, you review it maybe 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and you have to keep kind of bringing it back, right? What do they say? It takes 16 instances of a word before you remember it. 10, 16, data's all over the place. But you have to interact with the word at least 10 or 16 times before you put it into your long-term memory. Has anybody watched that movie, that Pixar movie with the people in the brain? The emotions one? What is it? Dang it. Inside Out. Inside Out. Have you ever, anybody? So what I love about that animation is they have this metaphor for the core memory, right? And a core memory is something you'll remember for the rest of your life because it's something that made you sad, happy, or angry, right? So you form a core memory based on those things. That's what long-term memory is, It's something that you remember because of something. Let's talk about it real quick. So yeah, you receive information, you recall, you repeat, you recall, you repeat. Hopefully you retain at some point, right? And this is the graph of how it should look with the spaced. And systematically, I don't think we can do this unless you're really good at knowing your mistakes. There's things like Quizlet. Has anybody used Quizlet before? Great vocabulary builder. We're going to do something. Vocabulary list with definitions. What I love about the definitions is if they choose the language like Turkish, it'll automatically give them the definition. It's so easy to set up. But you want to move away from that. I had a student that she said she made her own vocabulary list was 1,300 words. She stopped using Turkish translations. She started using simple English translations of words. I didn't tell her to do that. She just did it on her own because we were using this tool in the classroom. You can list key terms and meanings. So this is what I tell my students to if they're going into their department, whether it's medicine or whatever. This is a great tool to learn, to learn about vascular systems and everything like that. This is what doctors use for their own studies, right? You can review words and terms. Students can test themselves. We're going to check. Click on that or go to that QR code. There's a list of all the words that we just went over today in this class, the terms. Okay, go over them quickly. So this is the Quizlet that I made for this course that you're taking right now, and then we're going to do a quiz together. You guys can help me. You can come up. It's the glare. Whoops. It's all right. I set a timer for fun. And we are going to take a quiz. We are going to take a quiz. And so yeah, the flashcards have the term and the answer, right? This is what students want to be able to do. They want to go through the words. They're basically looking through flashcards. It's cool. Everybody get it? Should I make it bigger, smaller? Bigger. Yes. It's the glare. We'll get curtains someday. Everything will be someday. No? Huh. Oh well. Share with your partner. Sharing is caring. All right. So here is the Quizlet that I made just quickly for this one. They're flashcards. You can look at the definition by clicking on them, right? So students can actually review the words. You can make this list for your students in the reading class. You can have them help you with it as well. There's collaborators. And all the terms are here. We're going to take the test. I hope I can take it. Yep. We're going to get rid of true and false. No written. Let's just do multiple. No, let's do these two. That's easy. Okay. So help me out. Timely. T in smart. True or false? True. Specific. False. That's. Go backwards to determine the steps needed to get to that goal. Attention economy. False. Relevant. That's. Come on, Bob. 144 times. How often do we check our phones per day? True. So you guys remember things. Focus timers. Attention economy. False. Measurable. M in smart. Go. Work expands to fill the time given to it. True. See, you guys are memorizing things. That's wonderful. 20 hours? I don't know what that means. Oh. I'm the only man in this room. Yes. I have no idea what you're talking about. 20 hours. How long does it take to learn a skill? True. 10,000 hours? True again. 59 hours. Form a habit. They're all true. Okay, 57%. M in smart. How long does it take from a new habit? How often do we check our phones? Percentage of girls reporting feelings of sadness. Girls. Achievable. This one's you. A in smart. Use a timer to work in intervals, traditionally 25 minutes on separated by short breaks. Pomodoro technique, not spaced repetition. Independent. Autonomous. Nice. Your focus is the real product being sold or bought. Attention, economy, not triggers. Triggers. I didn't write that. 3.6. How often do we check our phones?
Men are likely to die.
Men are likely to die by suicide. Okay, let's check our answers. So students can do this with these quizzes. And why it's spaced repetition is the ones that they get right kind of goes away for a while. And it brings up the new ones. You know, they'll give them 18 sets. You can do this with your students. What I like about it is that your student will accidentally start using it, okay? So it was like, I think 3 years ago, I was teaching at Izmir Democracy University. I went to their class to watch their presentation. After their presentation, they had a Quizlet, and they were asking their classmates like what they remembered. And I said, where did you learn that? They said, your class, Mr. Bob. And I said, oh my God. And it was wonderful. So they had used something that they learned in my class for their presentation to kind of check their classmates' understanding of their own presentation. That is wonderful. That's what we want them to get to the point to, right? And it's also, if I wasn't in that class, I would have never known that they used it. I think that's the other thing about autonomous learning strategies. We don't see the result a lot of times. And even, I think for some of my students, it's like 4 years later, I find out that they're still using the note-taking system I taught them in the class, So that's wonderful. Others include Anki, which is really old school. And you can find like decks, like if you're looking to learn Japanese or any other languages, you can find that. Memrise is another one that's very similar. I like Quizlet because I think it works better in the classroom. Students can actually all like add to the same one if you like share the Quizlet. And then what I do is I have them make one and then they share it with me. So I can go and see their Quizlet. And some students love it, some students never do it, and it's fine. I thought what was really cool, and this is me doing all the work. At the end of last semester in the reading class, we had 500 words in the Quizlet, and the students could study all of the words that we got from the books. So at the end of the day, it was something that they could use to review and pass the test that they needed to pass. I'm happy. You don't have to watch that. You can watch that later. I show you how to sign up for it and how to use Quizlet. Language learning. Everybody knows Duolingo. I kind of like Busuu a little bit better. It's more realistic. Grammarly, everybody, right? So autonomous learning, right? People learning on their own. This is something you probably don't know. It's called Blue Canoe. It's good for pronunciation. So if you want students about reading pronunciation, it uses this thing called the color vowel chart. So each of the vowel sounds in English has a color and an item. So green tea would be the long E sound, red dress. And so it kind of uses the system that has an association with color and an item. So somebody was, in the last class, was saying, how did he say it? He was like, you have to stick to the pulon. And I said, what? And to the pulon. And I said, what? And spell it, P-L-A-N. And he was like, oh yeah, that's what I was saying. So this will help you check those things like that. Has anybody used Youglish, another pronunciation tool? Yes, no, I'm going to show it to you anyways. So Youglish uses YouTube and English. You can learn other languages using this. Give me a word that's really difficult. Actually, lawn? Well, I don't know. Okay. I won't be offended. Okay, the word. I hope the videos aren't.
Tell jokes in lingerie.
What's in your Netflix queue?
The unfortunate series of limited slickets.
Internet.
He worked in his mother's lingerie shop.
Okay, that's cool. So it uses YouTube.
Every giant wooden shoe for a photo op, you've got some trashy lingerie.
Lingerie. And you can choose
So I can capture
accent too. So if you're like into the British accent, you can use the British accent. You can see the differences between different.
So we sell retro-inspired and vintage-inspired lingerie, and we also sell other independent lingerie brands that meet niche needs.
And the one cool thing I think about this Youglish is you also get the context of the word. So some words, it'll be just, yeah, and you actually see like only lawyers using it, or only doctors using the word, or only artists using the word. You show this to your students, If you have a question about pronunciation, pull it up in the class. The students will start using it on their own, okay? And this is you modeling for them, you're modeling for them ways for them to look up information on their own, right? I love it. My students loved it. It's great for reading classes. It's great for everything. Oh yeah. So I guess you could click right on it. And yeah, you get different pronunciations from different people, men, women, and everything like that, right? So I think it gives the students a better pronunciation model than just your own, right? Questions? No? Okay. Let's get going. Language Reactor. Has anybody heard of this tool? Okay. So you can learn on YouTube and Netflix better with it. It's only for computers, okay? It's a browser that you install. It gives you instant definitions. You can click on the dialogue and it'll just go right there and it'll keep repeating it, okay? And so yeah, last year I didn't like Agadir, so I used YouTube. My students loved it because they were using Language Reactor to watch my online classes to get more meaning from everything, right? Let's watch an example. This is me making a video. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. Don't do that. One day I'll fix my links. One day. Okay, here is a video about Loom. So you can see our favorite TV show.
And now you get to choose your native language.
You get to choose the language, right? What ends up happening, you're watching your show,
What you want to
it
do
has
is go
all the
into the
dialogue
settings now,
right
just
there.
double check everything. You want the audio language because that's all right. And so now,
My head's flying off.
Are we waiting for what?
I don't know if you guys would like that, the,
Okay,
the
and so
double
you can see both
translation, English and
subtitles.
Turkish at the same
and
time.
then here on the right, it might be distracting, but you can see all of the different words, right? So this is a different purpose for watching Netflix. It's to learn a language. You know, you can see some of the the translations automatically, which is great. And so you can use that out. You can hide. So maybe
So you want to tell us now, or are we waiting? So you want to tell us now, or are we waiting for what? So you want to tell us now, or are?
And I think that's what I like about it the most. You know, there's like a phrase that a student wants to learn, you know, and they're like, what the heck did they say? This kind of slows it down for them, you know. There's another feature that auto pauses it between each line so you can kind of slow down. I don't know, yeah, my students were using this for my videos in the class so that they could actually learn what, you know, I was teaching them better. Something you could use in your own personal use, but, you know, just share it with your students. They might appreciate it. So if you're on Chrome or any Chrome-based things, there's an extension. I'll show you the link to it later. You just go and you download an extension that goes into your browser. And when you go into YouTube or Netflix, there's a little thing called LR, and you click it, it'll turn on. You can deactivate it. You don't have to use it all the time, but you know, even for YouTube, I like that it just shows the dialogue as you're watching. So it kind of gives students more context. They can read as they're going as well, right? And this is all.
Kinds of contents or
Yeah.
ones that they have CC, for example, or any.
It's anything with subtitles. Yeah. You know, and human translation is probably the best, not the machine one. But it works. All right. Where'd it go? Oh, I closed it. All right. Writing. Oh, wait, no, reading. Anybody have any reading tools that you use in the class to help students? News select, yeah. So there's articles that are like graded for student levels, right? The one I liked that I used last semester was Actively Learn. As a teacher, you can get all of these graded readers, you know, so there was picture of Dorian Gray and Black Beauty and all of these books. I could share it with my students. Great for extensive reading, okay? And what I also found, because, you know, all my students didn't have the books last semester, students were reading more than just, you know, there just was a whole library of classics that they could read. So yeah, I used this, my students loved it. Let me show you what it looks like, because I have an example of everything. Why does it always verify? Here we go. So, break my neck one day.
if you don't know a word, it'll define it if you highlight it. So the dictionary is right there.
Let me start that over.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Bob, and today I'm going to talk to you about
So there's all these books,
Actively
there's short
Learn.
stories.
It's a website for you to practice reading, and I've chosen a bunch of books. You don't have to read them all. You can choose active things.
But what I like about it does like active reading, so there's like lots of questions it asks you. You can actually see your students' responses. You can add them. There's a code that you give them. This is all free too.
Anyways, you get to read. When you click on a word, you can hear the word. You can hear it.
Translate it.
Many lands are marginal for farming.
You know, I don't
When
think that's the
rainfall is
greatest,
normal
right,
or
but-
high,
I don't recommend always doing that, but even if you don't know a word, it'll define it if you highlight it. So the dictionary is right there, and it's not in Turkish.
So there's all like, there's more context, right? And all the classic books are there. My students were reading The Metamorphosis. Somebody read Alice in Wonderland using this app. They didn't have to buy the book, and it's free. You have to set up an account as a teacher, and then you can add in all of the short stories or any kind of readings you want. There's tons of different types of readings. The only thing you'd ever have to pay for is if there's like a new book, a modern book, but everything else with the classics, it works wonders. So try that out, Hopefully we have some kind of extensive reading thing. I thought that was actually really cool. Writing, anybody? We got Grammarly. We got AI now, I guess? I don't know. Google Books. Let me ask you, how much do your students write in your writing class, like every day? It's always like that question. A lot? Like an essay? I think the best way to learn writing and to memorize how to write is just writing, So if you have free writings in your class, give assignments. They'll do it, I know we don't give an assignment score or anything like that, but I think one of the things that I've always loved about writing class is my journals. I learn so much about my students that it helps me I get through the day better because I know about students. I have them write about their challenges. Give feedback, and it doesn't mean that you have to give like full corrective feedback. I do like dialogue journals sometimes where I just reply to something in their thing, and they love that I'm like just reading. I don't know, it's just great reading sometimes. Or have students give each other feedback, swap papers, things like that, right? What I liked about the Padlet is I use Padlet throughout the year. I'm going to pull up my Padlet that I use every. So last year, every week we had a different Padlet, okay? And on every Padlet, I would just ask them a question. And none of these were for points, right? So let's say for International Women's Day, only 2 students. Well, that's not a good example. But none of these, during vacation? No. What was the most challenging? And I think they wrote their name, so don't look at them. So students wanted to write this. I told them, hey, I can't give you points, And they didn't do it all in class. They did it like at home. They did it like 2 weeks later. They did it like 3 weeks later. And I thought that was really cool, that students do want to share. And you don't even have to grade this, right? You can go through, Padlet's nice, you can edit something, so you can like make corrections for them. You want to model good writing examples. And I love that my students were actually reading each other's things. This is how I kind of was building an online community on the online classes, using kind of these sharing about their personal lives if they wanted to, as much as they wanted to. So I thought that was great, And it's something that I would send back to them and say, hey, look at this. You can set up some kind of a thing so they can all see it always, So writing. Have them write. Have them write. Use Padlets. Anonymous writing, right? You can also, everything's anonymous. Padlet's great for that. They don't have to put their names or anything like that. I actually just marked that they did it. I didn't give them points, but they did it. It was amazing. I don't know why. What other apps do you use? We're not going to do that. Any apps that you use that I don't know of, that we don't know of? Rosetta Stone. So that's a free account that we can all use. And will you teach your students how to sign up for Rosetta Stone next semester?
Yeah, each semester I do.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Okay. So we have a free tool that's been given to us by Rosetta Stone. How did we get that? Sina? Just an agreement?
Well, there is an agreement. The university pays for it.
Okay.
And I think with the orientation program, they train students about the system.
Right.
How they can register and so
Okay.
on. And on the library webpage, you can find detailed information about how to sign in and use the application.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So yeah, use it in class one day, show them how to do it. Great. Okay. Last thing I will just go through quickly, note taking. I don't think there is autonomous learning unless you can actually find the information again. Okay. It's more than busy work, right? This is active engagement this is active listening, okay? Taking notes, organizing information better, memory enhancement tool. When I go to conferences now, I stop talking to people. I just take notes so that people don't distract me. It's my way of being able to focus because somebody wants to chit chat, my phone goes off. I just take notes throughout the entire lecture. And I'll show you an example of one of my notes. Exam preparation, all of this stuff. This is what we're trying to teach our students, right? I always think about prep not just as preparatory English, but preparing them for university, right? We want to see our students successful in their university careers, academic careers, and professional careers. Okay, simplest one is outline, and that's just hierarchy. You either use the Roman numerals, numbers, bullet points, easy stuff. But what I like to combine it with is Cornell notes. Okay, so Cornell notes, you put all the information. On the left side, you write cues based on your information, key thoughts, abbreviations, and at the end you summarize. Okay, this was from Cornell University. I've taught this to my students. We did this as an assessment. This was in an English language teaching ELT class, and they still use this to this day. Like they're like, I take my notes in Cornell notes, Bob, and I'm like, that's amazing. So yeah, I think some of the assessments and things that we use in the classroom, they can stick with our students for a long time. The cues are the most important part because that's the part where you start to ask yourself how to quiz yourself, right? You're shortening, you're abbreviating, things like that. And then the summary helps you just kind of remember everything. One of the things I always like to ask myself after a lecture, what's one takeaway from this lecture? If you can think about something from the lecture, you actually remember that lecture. And it might just be, oh, that lady wore red shoes. That's it, But it'll help you memorize like what she talked about. This is an example of like a student's Cornell notes in one of my classes. It was about a TED Talk that she watched. This is not how she would take it normally, right? This is like the ideal, the perfect world where you can do all of this. And this was the assessment. This was the final examination for one of my classes. And so it stuck with them. I think the simplest thing you can do, and I think this is really powerful, you can combine it with something like a word cloud, is the keynotes, okay? Keywords, sorry. And this is something I took on a Vox video. So we were doing this this is an ELT class. You can still do this in your classes. So you show them like a 5-minute video. All they have to write down is keywords. They share it on the word cloud, then everybody sees all the vocabulary, right? So somebody misses one word, but another student gets it. Have you guys seen the Mentimeter word clouds? Just words everywhere. It's wonderful. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. Let's watch a video. This is when my computer slows down. See that? This is me taking notes.
The chart I'm building shows the greenhouse gas emissions from producing 1 kilogram of some common foods. In other words, it shows how much they contribute to global climate change. Most fruits, this is beef. When you only account for the emissions that go into the processing, transportation, packaging, and selling of a food product, the difference between these foods isn't so great. When you add the emissions from growing and processing food for livestock, you can see that the real gap comes from these two factors: the emissions associated with the farming process and the impact of land use change. Coffee has such a big footprint because of the fertilizers farmers use to grow it, which emit a lot of the greenhouse gas nitrous oxide. The farming process also accounts for most of...
Stop! There we go. Oh, here we go. Okay. And this is another thing I taught in a class, same class. We took those keywords and they made a concept map. And what I like about keywords is that they form their own sentences, right? They see the word chocolate, and what it represents in this is carbon footprint, okay? I'm just modeling to my students how to make a concept map. And these were all of the words that I had written down. I had them write it into little boxes, and they made mind maps. It was amazing. I'm going to go through this real quickly. I'm not saying you should do something like using information. It's really hard to type backwards. Nope. Anyways, concept map, keywords, to me that's the best. And it helps students memorize without having to memorize full sentences or anything like that. Okay. The coffee's kicking in. No, my computer is crashing. That's what's happening. Give me 1 second. I know what's happening. Do you guys ever lose your mouse? Oh, there. Here we go. Okay, so this is visual note taking. This is another way you can do it. I like it because it's a combination of everything. You can use keywords. This is something that I took at a conference this year, and it was like kind of built for this, right? Her presentation was about the metaphor for language teaching using sailing, and so yeah, I just kind of took her ideas and visualized it. I'll always remember this because of that visualization that I did, making a metaphor or an analogy for something, right? This is why I think keywords are really important, is they help us think of a whole concept with just one word, right? So this is an example, something you can do in your classroom when students are watching a video even, right? Second brain. Has anybody heard this term? Almost done. So we have our first brain. Our second brain is something where we can store all the extra information, right? It used to be in journals and notebooks and stuff like that. Now we have tools like Notion, if you've ever used that. Evernote was the old classic one. OneNote. And my favorite is Miro. So if you click on that QR code, and that's the last QR code I'll give you today, you're gonna get a board that has all of the information from this presentation wrapped into one. You can watch the YouTube videos inside of it. You don't have to memorize everything because I've used my second brain for you guys. So go ahead. I'm going to open it real quickly if you haven't. So many links, Bob. Why? Why do you do this to us? Okay, so here is Miro. Okay, so for me, this is my way of kind of organizing information. I started using this since the pandemic. It's the way that I organize for my presentations. I just take all the links and all the videos that I'm using. And I basically, there's a video that you could watch about this presentation that I did last semester. The PDF is baked in there. All of the articles that I use. Instead of having my browser just full of tabs, I just drop them into here. I like that the links are like data rich, that there's an image associated with it. It's not just this little tab that I'm like, no idea what it is. I've organized everything by the different topics that we talked about. So if you didn't take the notes and you want to watch all the videos and you want to use more of this in your classroom, you can use this as your reference. And I finished in an hour. Yes. Okay, anybody have any questions? That's a lot, I know. And I think the biggest thing, we have a feedback form. If you look at the sheet that you were given, we'll send out the feedback form. Let me know what kind of tools that we talked about today that you would like more detail about, that we can include in a training, And if I get enough people saying they want to learn about Miro or actively learn, because I think this is one of the best tools that I've learned in the last 4 years that improved my teaching. It's improved my presenting skills, and it's improved my collaboration skills. I'm able to work with people using these boards. You can share it. I made students make assignments, so that concept map, that was an assignment my student had to do. They had to take the class, the listening and speaking class, and they made a concept map about the concepts in our class. That's how they showed me if they understood the class. So yeah, give us feedback, and thank you so much for all of your time and effort today. Thank you. And you guys are great. Great group of people. Thank you so much.